Here are my quick thoughts on the film. What's up, flick fans? Welcome back to the channel. Austin is afraid to talk about this movie this soon, but you know what? I have to give you my spoiler-free review.
Let's do this!
Following the sudden death of his mother, a mild-mannered but anxiety-ridden man confronts his darkest fears as he embarks on an epic and insane odyssey back home, starring Joaquin Phoenix. This is rated R for strong, violent content, sexual content, graphic nudity, drug use, and language, so take the kids. Just kidding. This is one of those movies where I saw the trailer, and then I saw the insane reactions on Twitter, some of them from critics, and I said, well, this is going to get an F cinema score. I still kind of think it will, but I had a couple of people in my theater that clapped tonight. I don't know if they clapped because it was over, or if they clapped because they loved it, but they clapped. By the way, if you're here before I dive in, because I have so much to say about this Ari Aster film, and you want to drop this video a thumbs up, that would be so helpful. But this is my Beau is Afraid review. I have to try my best to parse my way through this. Ari Aster, Hereditary, Midsommar. You guys know I'm a massive fan of Hereditary, one of my favorite horror movies. Midsommar, I still believe it did exactly what it needed to do. A little bit too much for some, but I thoroughly enjoyed the experience as my voice goes away. This is going to sound weird, but work with me here. This is not Ari Aster's best directorial outing, but I do believe he's getting better as a director. Not every moment, not every element, most importantly, not every a subsection of the screenplay or subplot or however you want to phrase this. When you see the movie, you'll understand. It's all a bit much. Not all of it comes together, but there is so much here that allows me to look at Ari Aster and say, you're trying, you're attempting to be ambitious, you're taking all of the knowledge that you've learned from filmmaking and applying it to this film. Because this is not a horror film, but there are horrific elements in there, along with a coming-of-age story, along with a romance, along with a son who has the worst mommy issues you've ever seen. There are so many issues that this guy has been dealing with, dealt with as a child, continues to reel from, and a lot of this, what we see happen on screen, is happening in his mind, but the world that he's living in, it's just as crazy, right? We have to separate this from the reality that we are in as an audience. This is something that, of course, is playing on his mental state all throughout the film. But I can't sit back and say that all of the madness that happens on screen is happening in his head, because a lot of it is based in and around reality. And the reality that he is living in is slowly coming back to haunt him. There are moments and images in the beginning of the movie, I mean, the very first shot where he's walking through this crazy city, that inevitably we start to pick up as to where he was and what he was doing there in the first place. But there are moments, if you pay attention, and don't worry, I'm not going to spoil anything specifically, they will come back into play as you watch, just the most minute detail to the point, and it's a long film, it's 3 hours, to where I kind of feel like I have to watch this again, and I don't know if I want to just because of that runtime. It is 3 hours. It's overly long. It did not need to be that long. There are a couple of subplots here. We'll go off, we'll do something, we'll sit in a car and smoke some drugs with two girls. I'm just like, this, I get it, but this is just taking up unnecessary amounts of time.
What the fuck is this?
Think of it this way. Our main character, he's on a quest. He's trying to get somewhere. And every time he gets to the point to where he thinks he's almost there, he gets pulled off to the side. People are continually taking him in all sorts of mental and physical directions, and he just can't get there, to the point to where I'm just like, it doesn't matter if he walks in a straight line for however many miles, for however many hours, something will happen. And the frustration, the anxiety that comes from that you pull from our main character. Part of this is the performance. I think Joaquin Phoenix is doing an amazing job. He does everything he needs to do to convey that emotion, to allow you to feel that, but you're not going to feel that with an incompetent director. So the reactions that I saw on Twitter, and people are like, this is going to ruin Ari Aster's career. He's done for, ruined. And apparently people were screaming in the theater, he's done. Ruined. I saw Florian Zeller's The Son in theaters last year after The Father was one of my favorite movies of that year. And I just said, oh, that wasn't good. And I didn't say it out loud. It reminds me, I watched The Batman, and one of the critics stood up and said, that was horrible after the movie. And I'm just like, dude, you're a movie critic. We're at a critic screening. That's the most immature and stupid. It's so stupid. I sat through Marmaduke last year. If I would have watched that in the theater, you know what I wouldn't have done? Stand up and scream. It was one of the worst movies I've ever seen. And I understand, this is coming from a director that people respect. I think that's part of it. But again, there's so many cases where amazing directors will direct a movie that you're just not fond of, that doesn't work for you, but does that require an audible reaction? The answer is no, in no circumstance. No matter how old you are. Austin, you're only 20. Shut up.
Shut up! Just shut up!
That being said, this was weird. Did I feel compelled to scream in the theater? No. But there were some really weird moments. And I think this film tries to be as ambitious and, especially when you get in the third act, a couple of scenes in particular, one after another. See, if those crazy, bombastic, outlandish, and I think overly ridiculous scenes were a bit more spread out, maybe my reaction would be less severe. But because it was one after another, and I understand, the point of this movie is that you are slowly descending into madness. What may feel real may not be real. What may feel real may be real. I think that's up to the audience to determine. You're going to see a lot of ending explain videos on YouTube. You may even see one from this channel. I think that would be fun to do. But just know that no one but Ari Aster, maybe Joaquin Phoenix, maybe some of the supporting cast, knows what actually happened. We can attempt to determine that ourselves. I can give you my perspective on what happens in this movie, but it is all perspective. And that's one thing that I really respect about Beau is Afraid. Even though not everything works for me, when a director swings for the fences like this and creates a reality that's so distinctly different than really anything else that I've ever lived in or been in, that's something I can respect. There are also a lot of people that are going to watch this and see a movie that's very self-indulgent. And while I kind of disagree with that point, I understand that point. I think it's a valid criticism. I think people who may use the word cruel or a movie with cruel intentions regarding certain things or certain characteristics or maybe relationships with, mother-son, mother-daughter, that kind of thing, because we're dealing with a lot of various families here and a man who see things that come to pass that may not come to pass and moments that are happening in his head that are pulling elements from his life and a past that you don't necessarily dive into. You can draw conclusions at the beginning. But once you dive into his psyche, and really when we get into that third act, a lot of things come into perspective, right? I'm in the middle half of this film. I thought the first act really worked for me, but I'm in the middle, I'm kind of getting antsy. It's a 3-hour runtime. I'm thinking, this is interesting. I like the visuals, the moment where Joaquin is going on this very separated adventure. I'm like, this is great to look at, but where are we at in this story? How does this apply? Well, the third act takes it and reels it all in and gives us something else that feels very separated, very distinct. But the third act also continues to add on the lunacy to the point to where I was just getting a little frustrated with the narrative, a little frustrated with the screenplay, and without diving into specifics because I'm unable to do that, it was to the point to where I kind of knew how they were about to end the film, and without spoilers, they did it in the way that I thought they were about to do it, which was already frustrating me. And then when the movie ended, it really frustrated me, and I was kind of like, oh, you had to do the thing that I thought you were going to do. But that being said, the more I thought about it as I was driving home and thinking about, what I just said in my reaction, I'm kind of like, I get it. It makes sense. It's just getting past those series of ridiculous moments. Some people are going to struggle with that, and I get it. You automatically think of Kaufman. I feel like this movie is closer to I'm thinking of ending things than any other film in Ari Aster's filmography. It's also a little bit of Synecdoche, New York. I am not putting it on that level whatsoever. But in terms of a journey, much more outlandish, much more fantastical. This has those notes. It occasionally hits those notes, and it delivers on a technical level, which is really cool. The score, maybe not the most memorable thing in the world, but the look of it all, it's one of the best looking movies I've seen this year. Look, I have more to say, but they involve spoilers, so if you want to see that video, please leave that comment down below. Say, Austin, I want to see it. The video.
You are disgusting. You'll never find love.
Beau's Afraid is the definition of a huge swing from Ari Aster. Joaquin mesmerizes, and the cinematography is phenomenal. The way this overlong nightmare is captured will engross viewers, but there are moments where the ridiculous becomes too much. It's messy, but it's ambitious to the level to where I can respect it. It's just hard for me to say, I want to go watch it again because of the length and because of certain things and moments that didn't really work for me, and, you know, elements of the screenplay that I personally didn't think fully came together. But you swing for the fences, man. You at least have to kind of appreciate it. I think some people are going to hate this movie, though. I really do. Bring it on. Thanks for watching. Evil Dead tomorrow.